Hey, welcome everyone. Um, there's a moment, subtle, almost unnoticeable, when the way you think about your career or money no longer feels exactly the same. Nothing dramatic happens, no external sign announces it, yet internally something shifts. You might notice it in how certain conversations land differently than they used to. Topics that once felt motivating now feel heavy. Opportunities that once seemed exciting now feel unclear. Not wrong, just no longer aligned in the same way. This can feel confusing because from the outside, things may appear stable. You might even be doing well by most standards. And yet, there's a growing awareness that something inside you is changing. It's possible you've been carrying expectations that no longer match your internal rhythm. Expectations about productivity, about income, about what success is supposed to look like at this stage of your life. And the tension doesn't come from wanting more, it comes from wanting different. You may sense that your energy no longer responds to pressure the way it once did. That urgency doesn't automatically inspire you. That pushing harder doesn't necessarily feel wiser. This isn't a loss of ambition, it's a recalibration. Sometimes, before anything shifts externally, your nervous system starts asking new questions. Questions like, is this sustainable? Is this worth the cost? Is this how I want my days to feel? These questions don't demand immediate answers. They simply ask for honesty. And honesty can feel uncomfortable, especially when it disrupts familiar patterns. You might catch yourself pausing more often, reflecting instead of reacting, feeling less inclined to explain or justify your choices to others. This pause isn't stagnation, it's awareness forming. And awareness often comes before surprises, not as guarantees, but as possibilities. If you've felt this quiet internal shift, even briefly type yes in the comments, not as a declaration, just as recognition, because noticing is the first movement. As awareness deepens, many people begin to realize how much responsibility they've been carrying, not just practically, but emotionally. You may have taken on roles that required constant vigilance, staying ahead, staying prepared, staying resilient, even when tired. Over time, this can create a belief that safety comes from control, from anticipating every outcome, from never letting things slip. And again, this belief may have protected you once, but now you might feel the weight of it. You may notice how deeply your sense of worth has been tied to effort, to output, to endurance. Rest might feel earned only after exhaustion. Ease might feel suspicious. Receiving might feel undeserved unless you've struggled first. This isn't a flaw, it's conditioning. And conditioning can soften. You may start questioning whether constant pressure is actually required for stability, whether proving your value repeatedly is truly necessary, whether responsibility always has to feel heavy to be real. These questions don't mean you're rejecting discipline or ambition, they mean you're refining them. There's a difference between responsibility that empowers and responsibility that drains, between effort that feels intentional and effort that feels compulsory. You might notice that your tolerance for unnecessary stress is decreasing, that environments which normalize burnout no longer feel acceptable, that you're less willing to trade peace for validation. This doesn't make you unrealistic, it makes you discerning. And discernment changes how you engage with money and career decisions. Instead of asking, how much can I handle? You may find yourself asking, what supports my long-term stability? Instead of chasing intensity, you may start valuing consistency. Instead of urgency, clarity. Instead of pressure, alignment. If this reframing resonates, comment clarity, not because everything is clear, but because you're allowing space for it. Because when responsibility becomes conscious instead of automatic, new possibilities begin to appear quietly. One of the most delicate shifts in career and money isn't about action. It's about receiving opportunities, receiving support, receiving outcomes without bracing for collapse. You may have learned that ease doesn't last, that good periods require preparation for the next challenge, that relaxing your guard invites instability. So even when things improve, your body might stay tense. But lately, you may notice a subtle openness forming, a willingness to let moments of calm exist without immediately questioning them. This doesn't mean you stop being aware. It means you stop assuming that tension is necessary for survival. Receiving doesn't make you passive, it makes you present. And presence allows you to notice what truly feels aligned versus what simply looks impressive. You may begin to recognize hidden feelings around money that you've avoided: fear of dependence, fear of loss, fear of being seen differently if your circumstances change. These fears don't need to be eliminated, they need to be acknowledged. Because when you allow them space, they stop controlling your decisions from the background. You might also notice a shift in how you relate to success itself. Less urgency to prove, less comparison, more curiosity about what actually supports your well-being. This is where surprising insights can emerge, not as external events, but as internal clarity. Clarity about what kind of work feels nourishing, about how much is enough for you, about what you're no longer willing to sacrifice. None of this guarantees outcomes, but it does stabilize your internal environment. And stability changes how you respond to opportunities when they appear. If you feel yourself becoming more open to receiving without self-betrayal, type alignment, just as acknowledgement, because receiving from a grounded place isn't about luck, it's about self-trust. As these shifts integrate, something subtle happens in how you relate to the future. Not certainty, not expectation, but calm. You may notice that thoughts about career and money no longer trigger the same intensity, that uncertainty feels more manageable, that you trust yourself to respond even without knowing every detail. This trust doesn't come from guarantees, it comes from experience. From realizing that you've adapted before, that you've navigated complexity, that you don't need to force outcomes to remain stable. Quiet confidence grows when you stop outsourcing your sense of safety to external metrics. You may still set goals, you may still care deeply, but the energy behind your actions feels different, less reactive, more intentional. This is often where surprising shifts can emerge, not as dramatic breakthroughs, but as steady improvements in how life feels. Better conversations, clearer boundaries, more respectful exchanges, decisions that feel considered instead of rushed. These aren't promises, they're possibilities that become visible when you're grounded. And grounding doesn't require perfection, it requires honesty. As you sit with this message, remember, you don't need to force optimism. You don't need to fear uncertainty. You don't need to rush clarity. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Trust your inner knowing over external noise. Whatever unfolds next, you remain present, capable, and aware. And that, more than any outcome, is stability. Stay grounded, stay observant, and allow yourself to move forward without pressure. I don't sell futures, I build architects, not predictions, just the naked truth for the hard ones. Stay magic, stay in the now.